Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. I rip the mask off and swing my legs over. Monitors squeal, a nurse rushes, my toes hit the tile. I grab the rail and push up hard, the world tilts. I'm Alex Marin, 22, my voice scrapes, I stand anyway. Her hands hover near my shoulders, she looks past me for help. I yank the pulse clip free and stuff it in my pocket. We both know I'm leaving, I say, the door waits. She lunges for the cord at my hip, I twist right. The cannula snaps from the tape, my lungs skip beats. Code, someone shouts from the hall, I hit the floor running. My gown slaps my legs, the exit sign hunts me. A porter blocks the corridor with a rolling bin, he stares. I point at the elevator and mouth please, he hesitates once. He nudges the bin aside with his knee, I slip through. The station alarm rises behind me, my chest answers. I punch the button and turn my back to the doors. 2 interns appear at the corner, eyes wide, shoes squeaking. The doors grind shut on their surprise, I taste metal air. 4th floor slides to 3rd, numbers fall like dominoes. Ground opens and spits me into bright noise, I count steps. 12 to the sliding doors, 8 to the curb, 2 breathes. A security guard clocks my wristband, he keys his radio slowly. I lift my chin, he looks away, mercy noted. Rain needles my scalp and wakes me up hard, I blink. Cold hits my lungs like a dare, I take it anyway. Rideshare row shuffles, I lift an arm that shakes. A compact car rolls forward and stops on a dime. The driver asks through the cracked window, eyes on me. Not yet, I manage, voice thin but aimed, 2 stops first. He studies my gown and the taped wrist, he decides. Seatbelt, he says, the car smells like old coffee and resolve. I buckle and angle my body for less pressure, it fails. He checks the mirror, rain cross hatches the glass like static. You good back there, he asks, a half question, a test. Drive, I say, he nods once, the street opens. Sirens smear past us going the other way, my ribs buzz. I press a knuckle under my lip to stop the shake. Phone in my palm, dark screen, slick from rain, no messages. I unlock, 1 missed call returns like a bad echo. I type an address with clumsy thumbs, the map jumps. The driver reads it while stopped at a tight light. You sure, he asks, he points his chin toward the hospital. Positive, I say, he arches a brow, then guns it. Breaths arrive late and leave early, I count a steady. In through my nose, out through my mouth, simple drill. Numbers fail when the street jolts, my eyes water fast. Focus, I tell myself, this part matters more than pain. We cut left onto narrow lanes and busted patches, no tourists. The car bounces, my teeth click, my stomach tightens hard. A dog darts close and vanishes behind a fence. The driver brakes, we both curse, the clock keeps moving. 2 minutes, he says, he flicks water off the wheel. I stare at the address bar until the text blurs. I tap record and speak a single line for later. If I black out, they will know where to look. We stop at a corner with a rusted box drop, it lanes. I open the door and brace with 1 hand, knees wobble. Wait, he says, he kills the hazard lights fast. I'm not going far, I say, he nods once wary. I cross the sidewalk and pull the slot, it sticks. I plant my heel and jerk twice, something gives with grit. Inside, a package sits with my taped note on top. I grab it and shove it under my gown. Back in the car, the driver watches my breath count. He does not ask, he drives, respect feels heavy and clear. We take the next turn tight, rain backs off a touch. I text 1 word to a saved thread, now. A pair of kids sprint past, chasing a ball into traffic. The driver brakes hard, my shoulder slams the belt, fire blooms. I bite my tongue and taste rust, the car idles. The ball rolls back, the kids laugh, I don't. We roll again and hit a straight stretch, my phone vibrates. Three dots appear on the screen, then vanish, not helpful. Another buzz, a single letter arrives like a door crack. Here I nod to myself, the plan breathes. I unstick the tape from my arm and free the skin. The IV site weeps, I press a napkin from the seat gap. Pressure holds, the sting wakes a new pocket of fear. Good, fear means I still want the ending I chose. The driver pulls to the curb under a crooked awning, shelter. Second floor, I say, my voice shakes but stays sharp. Look at me, he says, he studies my pupils fast. You got 5 minutes, he taps the dash, I agree. I open the door and step into a deeper quiet. A stairwell yawns, elevator dead, a paper sign flaps loose. I take the stairs because waiting would kill more than climbing. First landing arrives, my chest riots, I keep moving. Handrail under palm, one step, then two, then pause. Black edges creep, I drop my head and breathe slow. Air shows up late, but here I whisper, don't stop. Boots thud above me, someone else is coming, D. Owned. I hug the wall and let a neighbor pass with groceries. He opens space with his shoulder, he does not look. My heart trips like it wants attention, it will get it. Second floor, door B, I knock with the back of my hand. The door cracks, a chain holds it, one sharp eye appears. The chain slides free, the door opens, no greeting. I step inside and hold up the package like proof. Time to trade, I say, my lungs agree with a rasp. Did they notice, she asks, she wipes a counter with focus. Enough, I answer, I place the box between us. She taps it once and pushes a folder my way. Sign first, she says, then we open, my palm sweats. Pen meets paper, my hand cramps and skids on the line. I steady with the other and write my full name. The letters wobble but remain readable, good enough today. I set the pen down and lift my eyes to hers. She flips the folder and checks the seal, everything intact. Her jaw loosens by a fraction, not a smile, not yet. 3 floors, back stairs, less cameras, she says. I nod and pocket the copy, she cracks the box. I do not look inside, I do not need to. The clock in my head bangs harder and faster now. A breath leaves and does not return on time, panic flirts. Move, I tell myself, the next stop decides everything. I open the door to the hallway and listen for shoes. Nothing close, a TV murmurs behind a wall, safe enough. I glance back once, she lifts a hand without words. I take the stairs down and the darkness follows. I hit the first step hard and the railing shuddered. Footfalls echoed above, fast gaining, I took the next flight. A stitch knifed my side and tried to fold me. I refused. On the landing I checked for shadows and listened, nothing close. Air came in ragged but usable, good enough for now. I pushed through the door to the alley and kept moving. The driver waited with the engine ticking like a metronome. He cracked the window and watched me limp the last yards. You got it, he asked, chin lifting at my pocket. Next stop, I told him. I buckled and held my ribs. He checked mirrors and slid into traffic without another word. I texted a single pin and waited for the dots. They flared, then vanished, then returned with a curt okay. My pulse spiked anyway, I needed him to show in person. The plan lived or died in the next 20 minutes. A bus pulled wide and trapped us behind shuddering panels. The driver drummed the wheel and looked for gaps, none opened. I counted my breaths and reset the pace to something calm. Panic wastes oxygen, panic also wrecks choices I cannot redo. The bus turned off and the lane finally cleared, we jumped. I pulled the IV tape loose another inch and winced. Blood seeped under the corner and threatened to drip, I pressed. The sting sharpened everything, focus is a kind of mercy. We rolled past a shuttered market with metal teeth down. A figure waited under the awning, hood up, hands buried. He saw the plate and stepped forward with wary shoulders. My throat dried, he still came anyway, which mattered. I climbed out slow and closed distance in short bursts. Clock's running, he muttered, glancing at the dash through rain. I handed him a folded card from the folder's copy. He flipped it open and blew out a humorless breath. You finally did it, he murmured, eyes flicking toward my chest. Paperwork holds, I said. I nudged the corner for emphasis. He tapped the signature line with a knuckle and nodded once. Then let's not waste this window, he added, already turning. We cut through a side gate and into a narrow yard. I counted steps to keep nausea in check and thoughts sharp. He scanned the fence line and pointed at a loose panel. Through there, he whispered. My hands shook but worked. On the other side sat a utility door with 2 locks. He produced a key for one and a code for the other. The keypad chirped and the bolt slid back, space opened. He gestured me inside and stood watch like a loaned guard. I set the package on a crate and snapped the lid. Cold air hit my face and brought a cough I swallowed. He watched my shoulders jump and kept his distance on purpose. We both understood the risk of wasting motion right now. I cut the tape and lifted the object wrapped in foam. No drama, just hardware I should not be holding today. He leaned closer, eyes alert, hands tucked behind his back. You sure? He asked softly. The word hung like a wire. Positive, I answered, keeping the object steady between wrists. He checked the serial against the card and gave a grunt. Matches, he said. You really thought this through. I let that pass. Pride is sand when time runs short. He slid a second envelope toward me and waited. I opened it and scanned 3 lines that changed routes. Not everything, but enough to redirect a storm I started. I tucked the envelope against my ribs and felt heat rise. Footsteps rattled the alley and then paused near the gate. He reached for the light and killed it with a knuckle. We held our breath while a key scraped metal and failed. The footsteps faded, then returned, then faded again into drizzle. We split, he whispered, already moving for the exit. You take the street, I'll loop back and purge the trail. I nodded and packed the foam around nothing to throw them. We stepped out together, then peeled in opposite directions. The driver spotted me and popped the lock with a click. I slid in and sank back, ears ringing from restraint. Same destination, he asked, eyes on the rear view for company. New one, I said. I fed him the bridge lot address. He whistled low and shook his head once. Old memory. You sure about that crowd? He asked, turning through the puddles. They won't be there long, I answered, and I'm late. He shrugged and leaned on the throttle until the tires sang. I filmed a 10-second clip and saved it to cloud. No speeches, just coordinates and a day of the week. If I failed the next handoff, someone would still find her. I pressed send and watched the progress bar crawl too slow. We hit the underpass and slid into the queue of cars. A meetup formed tight against the columns with idling exhaust. The driver cut the engine and looked at me for a call. Give me 5, I said. Leave if I don't return. I stepped out and walked toward a woman with clipped movements. She lived in right angles and straight lines, no patience left. Her eyes tracked the envelope under my jacket and hardened. Do you have it? She asked, hands locked around a tote. I showed her the corner and kept my body between watchers. She nodded once and handed me a phone wrapped in plastic. Press 1, she said, then listen, no questions here. I tucked it away and felt my lungs hitch like balky gears. A teenager cut across with a scooter and clipped my ankle. I stumbled and caught the column with an open palm. The woman reached for the envelope and paused mid-grab. Don't fall apart, she warned. We don't have duplicates. I'm upright, I managed, teeth grinding through the wave. She took the envelope and scanned the seal for tampering. Satisfied, she gave a curt nod and jerked her chin right. Bench 2, she murmured. You'll get a signal in 30. I made it back to the car and closed the door. The driver studied my face and decided not to lecture. He started the engine and rolled us to the far corner. We waited while raindrops stitched erratic patterns across glass. The phone buzzed exactly when the clock turned on the minute. I hit one and raised it to my ear with care. A voice I recognized filled the line and skipped pleasantries. "Turn around," he instructed. "You've got company at your last stop." I swallowed and tracked the mirrors for a tail that fit. Two vehicles idled too long near the exit with windows fogged. "Options?" I asked, steadying my breathing to keep words clean. "Detour east," the voice replied, "then push the river ramp now." We bolted. The driver handled angles like he'd practiced this route. One car peeled off and the other drifted without nerve. I exhaled and held a cough in a clenched fist. The phone went dead as planned, no breadcrumbs left. At the ramp I signaled for a pause and unwrapped the tote. Inside sat a child's crown and a slim notebook with tabs. A clue waited on the first page with a simple drawing. I closed it fast and felt the future press against me. "Hospital now?" the driver asked, eyes pinning mine, a demand. "After one more door," I answered, tapping the notebook twice. He groaned and banged his head once against the headrest. "Last stop," he said. "Swear it." I nodded and meant it. We turned off the ramp and headed toward the block of offices. I wiped sweat with my wrist and tasted salt on split lips. Every muscle trembled like an engine at redline on bad fuel. I held anyway. The choice ahead would either save us or end me. I pushed through the revolving door and stumbled toward the directory. A guard clocks my wristband and steps off his stool fast. I raise the tote to chest height as a shield. He pauses. "Top floor," I say, already moving for the stairwell handle. He reaches for his radio and thinks better of it. I swing the door open and start climbing two at a time. Every landing steals a breath I cannot spare, and still I climb. Halfway up, a janitor blocks the turn with a cart. "Fire code," he snaps, arms braced, jaw set for trouble. I point at my band and croak out urgent. He yields an inch. I squeeze through sideways and don't look back for judgment. My chest rattles like a loose switch and pain blooms. I press knuckles under ribs and keep my feet marching. The world narrows to numbers on the door frames. 9, 10, 11, 12, almost there or too far. At the final landing, a woman stands with a folder. Her shoes are quiet and her stare carries weight. "You're late," she says, eyes flicking to the tote once. "Elevator stalled," I ends. I reach for the bar and push through. A lobby opens with glass walls and humming machines. Two assistants glance up and then pretend they didn't. The woman strides ahead and swipes a badge at a gate. "Inside," she orders. "We have 4 minutes before a check." We cut into a small room with a table and camera. She locks the door and sets a recorder on standby. "You brought proof?" she asks, hand out, palm steady. I lift the notebook and the crown and lay them down. She studies the drawing on the first page without blinking. "That mark matches a note from last week," she whispers. Her finger lands on a tab and she turns one page. There it is, a clue that points at today, not yesterday. "Sign here," she says, sliding a slim form toward me. I read the single sentence and feel heat hit my ears. Short words, sharp meaning, no wiggle room left. I grip the pen and write slow so it counts. Footsteps pass the door and halt on the other side. A knuckle taps glass, a male voice calls a name. The woman kills the recorder and tilts her head once. I place the crown back in the tote and tuck it deep. The handle tests against the lock and stops with a rattle. "Bathroom occupied," the woman calls, tone bored to the bone. Silence returns like a favor I didn't earn. We breathe through it, then she motions at the camera. "Look up," she instructs, "state the location and time." I lift my chin and deliver both without drama. My voice holds for 10 seconds and then wobbles. She nods at the lens and flicks the recorder off again. "Next piece," she prompts, tapping the table with 2 fingers. I pull the phone from plastic and press when is told. A new voice greets us and skips courtesy like fire skips drizzle. Hold up your left hand, it instructs. Now show the wristband. I lift my arm and aim it at the camera. The voice hums through a checklist and asks for the tote. I angle the bag and reveal only what we agreed. Good, the voice says. Your contact waits downstairs near vending. The woman unlocks the door and hands me a badge. This gets you past the guard without questions, she says. Third column, second bench, 2 people, no chatter. I nod once and feel the ground tilt toward the next risk. I pocket the badge and push back into the hall. The assistants keep their eyes glued to their screens. My legs shake and my chest stings cold, then hot. I aim for the elevator because stairs would finish me. Doors open on the second ding and I step inside. A courier follows with a stack of packages wrapped tight. He stares at my gown and looks away like it burns. We descend in stretched quiet while my pulse drums loud. The lobby opens onto a seating area with uneven cushions. A pair sits where instructed, knees almost touching, hands hidden. One looks up with a quick scan, then returns to neutral. I angle closer and sit on the edge, ready to bolt. Trade, the nearer one whispers, eyes on the floor tiles. I slide the tote under the bench with a careful push. A slim folder glides back along the same path. I trap it under my heel and wait for a tell. No panic, no sudden shuffle, calm as a clinic. I lift the folder and crack the clasp 1 inch. Inside rests a photo and a key card with numbers. A sticky note carries a time that is not now. A hand lands on my shoulder and squeezes twice, alert. The guard stands over me, face unreadable, stance ready. Office upstairs needs you back, he says, chin pointing right. Records error, he adds, eyes sliding to the pair. My instincts flare and I play along without protest. I rise slowly and keep the folder tight to my chest. Let me grab my water, I say, voice steady but thin. I bend, reach under the bench, and hook the tote strap. The pair stands at the same moment and drifts away. The guard walks with me toward the elevator bank. Halfway there, a cleaner pushes a bin across our path. The guard pivots to help, and I pivot harder. I cut toward a service corridor and badge the door. It clicks open and I slip through as the bin squeaks. Behind me, I hear the guard curse once under his breath. I sprint a dozen steps and duck into a maintenance room. I brace the door with a wedge and count 3 beats. No chase yet, either lucky or watched by better eyes. I open the folder fully and study the photo fast. It shows a classroom corner with a calendar circled twice. The key card lists a basement suite with a short code. The time on the note points 15 minutes ahead. Enough to make it if I find the right stairwell. Not enough if the guard guesses my move now. I ditch the badge on a shelf and grab a mop handle. It becomes a cane, not a weapon, just leverage for speed. My lungs scrape like sandpaper and still I move forward. Basement signs appear and I take the turn without slowing. A locked door greets me with the matching keypad. I type the digits from the card and watch for green. The bolt retracts and cool air hits my face hard. I step inside and hear tiny footsteps somewhere close. I slide through the door and ease it shut on the latch. Small sneakers scrape ahead, then freeze at the sound. A whisper cuts the air like thread, don't move. I hold still and listen for the next breath. A narrow corridor opens left with numbers stenciled low. I follow the sequence until the matching suite appears. 2 knocks, a pause, then 1 more on the frame. The bolt snaps back and a careful eye studies me. A counselor steps aside and tilts her head toward quiet. A child peeks from behind her jacket and bites a lip. I raise the key card, then the folder, no flourish. The counselor gestures inside and seals the door behind us. My chest lurches and I grab the table edge to steady. She notices and slides a chair with 1 push. I refuse. Standing keeps me alert. I manage through controlled breaths. Her gaze drops to the wristband, then returns to work. Verification first. She powers a recorder and points up. I face the lens and state the suite and minute. Words arrive thin but complete, trimmed to essentials. She stops the device and holds out a signed release. I flipped the page and read the single line twice. Short clause, hard promise, no wiggle room anywhere. The pen scratches and leaves a shaky signature anyway. The counselor nods and taps the corner for a scan. The child edges closer and studies my hands with curiosity. Treasure day, they whisper, eyes bright under a cap. I pull the notebook and open to the first clue. A star marks a spot with a familiar shape, tomorrow. Footsteps drum beyond the wall and stop at the vent. The counselor raises a finger and kills the overhead fan. We wait while dust shifts and quiet returns like a dare. She points to a cabinet with a false back, emergency route. I brace the mop handle under my arm for balance. She swings the panel and reveals a service passage downward. 3 flights then left at the cage, she murmurs. I glance at the child, who already knows the path. Time to go, I tell them, keeping voice level. They slide their small hand into mine and squeeze once. My ribs sting as we duck into the narrow chute. The cabinet closes behind us with a muted click. The descent steals oxygen I cannot spare without cost. I pace steps between breaths and count in quiet numbers. The child taps my wrist twice when I falter. I straighten and keep moving because they watch. At the bottom, we hit a grate locked with a ring. The counselor drops beside us and works the latch cleanly. The gate opens into a low bay with stacked crates. Somewhere above, a door slams and voices argue. She shines a tiny light once, then pockets it fast. This way, she whispers, moving along the wall with purpose. I follow and keep my gait even to avoid rattling. The child presses close and matches my stride without complaint. My phone vibrates with a single word from the underpass contact. Shift, the schedule moved and our window narrowed. I show the screen and the counselor swears under breath. Loading dock now, she urges, guard rotation just flipped. We angle through a mesh gate and hit a freight corridor. A cart blocks the angle with a wheel turned sideways. The counselor jerks it back and clears a gap. I guide the child through and keep my pulse steady. At the dock, the outside roll-up hangs half open. Rain drills the threshold and cools my face like ice. The rideshare pulls in tight and flashes headlights twice. I raise the tote and the driver flattens his palm. Wait. 2 figures appear at the far end near the scale. Their posture shouts authority without badges or kindness. They start down the line with practiced boredom. We are not on their schedule, which helps for seconds. Final step, the counselor says, holding out a thin card. I press a fingerprint in the window while my lungs burn. The tablet chirps approval and dumps a receipt. She slips it away and points at a side door. The child looks up at me with stubborn focus. Will the hunt keep going? They ask with no fear. Weakly, I answer, first clue already set. They nod like a teammate and tug my sleeve toward daylight. We move as a cluster past the stacked pallets. One of the figures glances over and then dismisses us. The driver watches and flicks his chin at the rear seat. I open the door and let the child climb in fast. The counselor lingers and checks the badge one last time. Tomorrow, same signal, different entrance, she says. Her hand tightens on my shoulder and then drops. She fades back into the bay like smoke before. Alarms. I slide in and pull the door with a quiet thump. The driver rolls forward and merges with the drizzle outside. In the mirror, the 2 figures argue at the dock chain. We turn the corner before their attention finds us. Hospital now, the driver asks, tapping the dash for urgency. After the classroom, I answer, touching the notebook for courage. He swears under breath and angles toward the avenue. I lean back and fight the cough that wants control. A light ahead turns and gives us a narrow window. We make it through while a van blocks the cross traffic. The child presses the crown flat and studies the drawing. Circle means library, they whisper, eyes widening with certainty. The driver glances at me, then at the small navigator. You sure about this detour? He asks with a grim smile. We finish it now, I tell him, then hospital, no debate. He nods once and pushes the pedal hard enough to promise trouble. We pull beside the side entrance with the covered steps. I check the time on the sticky note and wince. 5 minutes remain before the class dismisses for the day. We move fast because 5 minutes can break a plan. Inside the foyer, I hand the child the first clue. They march ahead and tuck it under a taped poster. I plant the second under a bin near the door. Tomorrow starts here even if I do not. A bell rings and the hallway fills with sudden motion. I steer the child and the driver back toward the exit. A teacher spots the wristband and frowns at the gown. Field trip, the driver jokes, guiding us out before questions bite. We reach the car as the rain eases for breath. The child buckles in and holds the notebook like a map. I climb beside them and feel my vision pulse black. Now hospital, I manage, voice rough but decided. The driver turns the key and throws us into the lane. I press my palm against my sternum and count through it. Each inhale scrapes deeper and demands another promise from me. I give it anyway because the next stop must matter. The car skids to the bay and the door flies open. Orderlies rush with a chair and try to pin my shoulders. I brace on the frame and shake them off once. Registration later, I rasp, I need a phone now. A triage nurse plants a mask on my face with force. I tear it aside and point at my wrist with urgency. Digits are inked there in thick strokes from earlier. Dial this, I manage, put it on speaker or we lose it. She hesitates, then snatches my phone and taps the code. The line clicks and a familiar voice answers with one word. Ready, the nurse flinches but holds the mic near me. Confirm release package Gamma, I say, use today's stamp. Confirmed, the voice replies, witness name, the nurse looks wary. Check triage screen, I croak, you are the witness now. Her jaw works, then she nods and hits the form. A chime sounds on the line like a gate swinging open. The driver shoulders in and plants himself at my elbow. Contact, he tells the nurse while lifting his chin. He slides the notebook to the tray and taps a tab. Next clue set, he adds, pickup clock started there. A resident pushes past with a cart in a clipped tone. IV first, he orders, reaching for my arm without permission. I pull back and offer the other side like a bargain. Left only, I tell him, right stays free for tasks. He inserts the cannula cleanly and tapes it down tight. I breathe through the sting and count to 10 slow. The monitor jumps and someone curses behind the curtain. I anchor to the bed rail and refuse the mask again. Minutes, I warn the nurse, voice shredded but steady enough. Then do whatever you want, I'm not fighting after. She studies my face and decides I'm on it. 2, she says, raising 2 fingers with a hard stare. I hit record and lift the notebook toward the ceiling camera. Treasure hunt continues, I say, keeping tempo with my heart. First trail marked, second sits at the library map. I stop there before emotion takes the rest of my air. The curtain swishes and a social worker steps into view. She clocks the wristband and the driver in one sweep. Custody chain verified, she asks, holding a tablet out. The nurse signs with a stylus and hands it back quickly. Emergency contact will escort the child now, the worker states. She passes a lanyard across to the driver without ceremony. He slips it on and tucks the notebook under his jacket. Route clear, he mutters, already backing toward the door. The phone buzzes in the nurse's pocket with a tone. She checks the screen and shoots me a fast glance. Message delivered, single checkmark becomes double before my eyes. Relief hits so hard my knees go weak on the bed. Mask now, the resident demands, holding it inches away. I lay back and let him press it over my face. Air surges and my skull floats away from its hinge. The room tilts while voices sharpen and blur in turns. A figure appears beside the driver and B. Locks his exit. Leah, wet hair, fierce stare, he lifts a palm in greeting. Thursdays, he tells the worker while never looking away. And backup Saturdays, start this week or I don't deserve her. The worker nods once and types fast with focused hands. She gestures toward the hallway and clears a path. The driver squeezes my shoulder and mouths one word. Go, they vanish into the noise while my chest misfires. The resident announces numbers and someone tightens a strap. The nurse leans close and folds my fingers around a button. Press if you need more flow, she whispers near my ear. Her pupils shine with stubborn compassion and sharpened fear. I press once and the hiss deepens into a steady rush. A chill spreads across my arms and tremors start small. I stare at the inked digits until they blur to ghosts. A beep flattens, then climbs, then dips like a warning. A security officer steps in and scans the room quickly. His gaze lands on the empty tote space and lingers. He opens his mouth, then closes it, then steps back out. Whatever chase he wanted just left with the people who matter. My phone, still on speaker, clicks to a new voice. Delivery verified, it reports. Final code requires your confirmation. I swallow hard and lift my hand for the nurse again. She brings the mic close and waits without blinking. Authorize last lock, I say, slow and exact, no repeats. Use pattern delta with tomorrow's marker in the corner. Silence, then a soft tone like a vault settling. Done, the line answers. Rest, others can run the map. The ceiling swims and the edges creep inward like tide. The nurse adjusts the flow and checks the adhesive with care. I feel the room narrow to her face and the button. Outside, a child laughs once, bright and quick, unbelievably close. The bed jerks forward and clips the door frame. A tech curses and shoves harder toward the lift. I grip the side rail and keep my gaze level. If I break now, the map goes dark. The lift opens and swallows us with a shudder. A respiratory doc checks the vent settings and avoids my eyes. Hold steady, the nurse murmurs, palm anchoring my wrist. I nod once because speech costs too much here. The doors part to a corridor humming like a hive. I count panels to keep panic from chewing through thought. 6 left, then a right, then the glass suite. We swing in and the team swarms like they rehearsed. Consent on file, someone announces from a tablet. My lungs hitch and remind me what is failing fast. I motion for the nurse and tap the notebook twice. She pulls a pen and waits for my last line. 3 words, 1 date, 1 symbol only Bug understands. The nurse copies it to the front page with care. She holds it up so I can check alignment. I blink once, good enough, no do-overs left. A shadow fills the doorway and stays outside the tape. Leo, hair plastered, Josette, a nod across distance. He lifts his phone and shows a message from Myra. Safe, Thursdays locked, Saturdays on standby if needed, tight. I press my thumb to the call button and release. The doc watches the waveform twitch and recalibrates the flow. I meet Leo's eyes and gesture toward the window. He understands and steps aside for a smaller visitor. Bug slides in between 2 rolling stands and plants feet. Crown slightly bent, notebook hugged to ribs like a shield. They raise 2 fingers, a silent question for permission. I nod and point to the heartbeat number, new lesson. They watch the digits bounce and mimic calm breathing. In, out, the rhythm becomes a game we can win. The nurse smiles without showing teeth and adjusts the cannula. I keep pace because their eyes are on me. A hospitalist leans over with a syringe and a warning. This eases the struggle, he says, voice even and firm. I nod again and hold up a single finger first. Bug reaches for my hand and hooks our pinkies together. Treasure Captain, they whisper, leaning close to hear me. I focus hard enough to burn through the fog. Clue 2 waits by the map, I manage through the mask. They grin and squeeze like they just unlocked a door. The syringe empties and the room softens at the edges. My chest loosens enough to think straight for 30 seconds. I tilt my head toward Leo and then toward Bug. He gets it and moves to their shoulder like a guard. The nurse pinches the tape and lines near my ear. Any last instruction for the chain? She asks quietly. I lift my hand and draw a tiny circle twice. She jots it on her palm and nods with resolve. The doc checks his watch and signals a timed sequence. Lines connect, monitors chirp in uneven choir. My fingers go cold and then light as foam. I clamp my jaw and aim for the final task. Driver, I croak. The nurse taps a number on my phone. His voice arrives like gravel and caffeine, alert and ready. Bench clear, he reports, back to the library in 10. I close my eyes and picture the taped poster. Go. A code tone star. TS somewhere down the hall and fades. The team steadies around me like a practiced circle. I angle my head toward Bug and force a smile. They mirror it and lift the crown with both hands. 2 more clues, they whisper, then the big prize. I raise my eyebrows and let that promise settle. They study my face and straighten their back like a captain. I feel the shift, they are ready to lead. Leo rubs his forehead once and lowers his hand. Thursdays, he mouths again with a stubborn half grin. I flick my gaze to the door, time to move them. The nurse understands and touches his elbow toward the hall. Bug hesitates and then sets the crown on my blanket. Keep this till tomorrow, they say, voice clear and brave. I push the crown toward their chest with 2 fingers. You take it, I whisper, leaders carry the flag. They swallow and tuck it under an arm with pride. See you after the library, they add like an oath. I hold that promise in my ribs and let it warm. The nurse guides them out while Leo covers the rear. The room quiets, then fills with purposeful motion again. The doc points at the ventilator and waits for my nod. I scan the ceiling and count 4 tiles for courage. My head dips once, we begin the heavy part. The mask seals and a deeper rush pours through me. It lifts and lowers my chest with steady mechanical patience. I ride the wave and let the room blur at the edges. Somewhere beyond the door, running footsteps skid and stop. Myra appears in the window with the counselor beside her. They both lift hands like traffic cops and breathe with me. I match their tempo and hold the rail until tremors pass. The counselor taps her wrist twice. Tomorrow is set. The nurse slides a marker into my palm and tilts a board. I print 3 block letters and a simple arrow pointing down. She tapes it to the glass facing outward at the hall. Myra reads it and presses her forehead lightly to the pane. The doc checks my pupils and signals a final calibration. Numbness crawls from fingertips to elbows in soft waves. I can still hear the hall, I can still choose. I squeeze the call button once to mark I'm here. On the counter, the notebook lies closed with the lanyard. The nurse flips to my last line and traces the symbol. Library, she murmurs, committing it to memory for backup. She pockets a copy and returns to the checklist with purpose. My vision narrows, but sound stays sharp enough to guide. I hear Bug laugh in the distance and then hush. I hear Leo's low murmur and the driver's steady reply. I hear the counselor telling Myra to trust the cadence. The doc lowers his hand and the team settles into rhythm. Breath, pause, the pattern holds like rails. I set my shoulder blades against the mattress and let go. Past the glass, a small crown bobbles away into tomorrow.